Client Officer at Wavemaker. Wavemaker is a media agency that's very proud to grow our clients' business through positive provocation. And I'm delighted to be here today with our client, Linda Bethea. Linda heads marketing at Danone in the US. In that role, she leads a 100+ person team and is responsible for marketing strategy and insight, analytics, media, content across all of Danone's brands. And in fact, the US is the largest business unit within Danone's $30 billion global business. They're a top 15 food and beverage company in the US with brands that are beloved to many of us, including Silk and Horizon, Oikos, Danone, International Delights, just to name a few. And Danone's mission is to bring health through food to people, to all people. They are a certified B Corporation uniquely and part of the movement for driving good in today's environment. And with that, Linda, I would love to start by chatting about driving purpose in marketing today. When Wavemaker first began working with Danone, I was really curious to learn about B Corp status. I'm wondering if you could just take a couple of minutes to talk to us about exactly what B Corp status means and what really drove Danone's decision at a corporate level to acquire that status.
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I'm super proud to work for Danone, which is the largest certified B Corp in the world. And essentially what that means is that we're committed to using business as a force for good. So balancing our financial interests, right? We're a company, we still have financial goals that we need to deliver against, but balancing that with the positive impact that we want to have on people and planet, right? So you talked about Danone's mission, which is one planet, one health. And so all of our brands are committed to delivering against that vision, but of course, in a way that's authentic to that individual brand and its brand purpose. And we know that today, more and more consumers care about brand purpose, right? They want to buy brands and believe in brands that share their values, and so we're living in this value-driven world. And so it's more important now than ever that we're building brands that have a purpose in the world.
Do you have any examples, Linda, on a brand level of how B Corp has come to life within the organization?
Yeah, one great example would be our Too Good yogurt brand. So again, their way of bringing our overarching One Planet, One Health mission to life is through their belief that you can make room for more good when you use less. So as a brand, Too Good is committed to using all natural, non-GMO ingredients and also reducing waste throughout the supply chain. And so throughout our entire supply chain, as we look at making Too Good yogurt, we're committed to reducing waste. And then we're also partnering with food rescue organizations across the country to help repurpose wasted food to communities and people that need it most. And so I think that's a great example of how we take our brand purpose and actually live it in real life and have a positive impact on the world.
Yeah, it's a fantastic example, actually. You've been credited with revamping how the marketing organization has been working at Danone since you joined. Wondering, is there anything about the B Corp status in particular that's influenced your marketing decision making and how you've revamped some of the approaches that you're taking?
Yeah, we've tried to instill a lot more rigor behind how we build brands with purpose. Danone has a fantastic model called the Manifesto Brand Model, but it used to be a bit of a check the box exercise, as I think a lot of marketing frameworks are. So we've really built out a team that's responsible for helping the brands truly crystallize their brand purpose, and then how each individual brand is going to live out their One Planet, One Health commitments and have that true impact in the world. So one that we just worked through is our Silk plant-based beverage brand, which really believes that plant-based living can save the world. And so we're working through what that means for the brand and how we can really show people that they can save the world by choosing plant-based products, but in doing so, they don't have to compromise taste. A lot of people are afraid that plant-based products aren't going to taste as good as traditional dairy, and our plant-based products are delicious. If you haven't tried them, I used to be a big dairy consumer, and I still am. We have a whole Horizon Organic dairy portfolio, but I'm now a convert. I drink Silk unsweetened almond milk every morning in my coffee, in my cereal, etc. So Silk's really on a mission to show people that you can save the planet by choosing plant-based, but you don't have to compromise delicious taste. So that's been a really fun brand to work on and help bring its brand purpose to life.
Another excellent example, and really a demonstration of the foundations, I think, that have been put in place at Danone, to make sure that, the core of your mission and your beliefs are really at the heart of marketing efforts. Curious if there are any other marketing efforts that resonate around that you're especially proud of.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, right? It's been a really challenging year, I would say, to be a marketer, and we had to pivot and shift a lot of our campaigns. But I think that's how you grow as a marketer, right? You're faced with new challenges. You get to, be agile in action and try to do new things. And so I think another great example, again, on our Silk brand, is right when the pandemic hit, we were about to film a new campaign for our Silk soy milk business brand. We have a longstanding partnership with Michael Phelps, an Olympic swimmer, and we just signed on Allie Reisman, an Olympic gymnast. And so we had actually just shot the campaign with Allie. We were about to go shoot with Michael Phelps in Arizona, and then we all went on lockdown. So obviously nobody was flying to Arizona to do a big campaign shoot. So we actually got Michael and Allie on the phone, and we brainstormed, and we actually had them create some at-home content. We're actually still leveraging kind of the main tenets of the campaign, but now getting them to help us engage people and talk about how Silk soy is a great source of protein. It's a great way to fuel your body, but we also need to now think about others and fueling others. And so we actually engaged them to help us make donations to Feeding America during the pandemic. We know that food insecurity was on the rise, and so it was just a great way to pivot that campaign, produce some scrappy at-home content, and raise money for a great cause. So really proud that we were able to do that very early on in the pandemic.
I love that example. I love that example as, a demonstration of driving purpose in marketing for sure, and also managing through crisis, which I'd love to get to in a little bit with you. But before we move on, I'm just curious, outside of Danone, are there other brands or categories that you feel have really done an excellent job of, marketing with purpose and really living their purpose and driving good for business? What's inspired you and as you think about brands outside of Danone?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a buzzword in the industry right now, right? Everybody's talking about brands with purpose. And I think, there are great examples of brands that are living their purpose. And then there's some not so great examples of brands that are stumbling a bit. But I would point to actually a fellow BCorp brand, Patagonia, as one, it was one of, I think, the original pioneers of building their entire company around their purpose, really saving the environment. And so they donate 1% of all profits every year to environmental organizations, which is a great example of putting their money where their mouth is. They've actually founded a nonprofit to show others how they can use business as a force for good and do the same. So I think they're probably one of the shining examples of getting it right.
Yeah, great inspiration there. And I love that you went to an example outside of the packaged goods industry too, right? Because we all have to be so open-minded, I think, around where we get our inspiration from and making those correlations. So
yes, I love getting ideas from everywhere.
Yeah. Chatted a little bit a few minutes ago about managing through crisis. I think we have all had an incredible education. We've been forced to, right, during the last several months. I'm curious to hear a little bit from you about how the crisis that we're all living through has, required some shifts in strategy. What are some things you've had to do to adapt as you lead that very large team at Danone in today's world?
Yeah, I mean, as marketers, we're always trying to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening in the world, and that was never more true than it was this year. So early on, when we realized, that COVID wasn't going away, and that, we had to adapt to the so-called new normal, we actually fielded a custom A&U study with our Danone consumers, so we could truly understand the impact that the pandemic was having on them, their attitudes, their mental health, their shopping habits, their consumption habits. I know, I gained somewhat of the COVID-19 at home, eating more during a stressful time. And so we really wanted to get into the hearts and minds of our consumers to really understand how we could then shift our strategy to meet their changing needs. And we learned a few things and changed a few things. I think first and foremost, from a media standpoint, we saw a huge shift, as you know, in media consumption habits. And so we had to pivot our media strategy accordingly. We shifted dollars out of home and TV into more online video and social channels. We saw a huge increase in social media engagement during the pandemic, and that really enabled us to really advance our social media strategy. We actually got into TikTok for the first time, much to my 10-year-old daughter's excitement. That is her favorite social media platform. We actually just launched our new Oikos 000 TikTok challenge. So, that was one of the things that really enabled us to accelerate some of the things that we've been talking about from a media standpoint. And then I think from a content standpoint as well. A lot of the campaigns that we had planned, we either couldn't produce or they were no longer relevant, right? People's values and mindsets had changed during the course of the pandemic. And so lucky for us, we have a fantastic internal team here. We actually have 2 in-house studios, one here in New York and one in Colorado. And so we were actually able to pivot very quickly and produce more scrappy content. And so, for example, on Light and Fit, we partnered with a number of fitness influencers and a fitness app to produce at-home workout videos, right? We knew people were no longer going to the gym, they were eating their feelings, they were gaining the COVID-19, and so they were looking for that online workout inspiration that we were able to provide. On Silk, we saw a huge spike in Pinterest searches for recipes using plant-based ingredients. So we created a whole recipe content series showing how you could use Silk ingredients in delicious plant-based recipes. Those are some of the ways we're able to pivot and develop content to meet those evolving consumer needs as they stayed at home during the lockdown.
Yeah. And I think the impact of changing mobility on every aspect of the marketing chain has been so enormous. Was there anything that surprised you at all? Or can you talk a little bit about any product maybe adoption that's happening as a result of that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest shifts that we saw was, with people no longer going to work, their kids no longer going to school. I know my 10-year-old's upstairs right now doing homeschooling. Families started having breakfast together again. So there was a huge increase in at-home breakfast consumption. It drove the ready-to-eat cereal category through the roof for the first time in years, which had a positive impact on our business in terms of our Horizon organic dairy, milk business, as well as our Silk plant-based beverages. And then we also saw a real shift in yogurt consumption as well. Prior to the pandemic, a lot of our yogurt consumption was on the go in, individual on the go cups and servings that people either ate on the way to work or brought for, a quick breakfast or snack at the office. And now that people were at home, we saw a huge shift to multi-serve tubs, because they were looking to stockpile, stock up, fill the fridge. And that was, a better fridge staple, a more economical buy. And so that was kind of a surprising shift from a packaging standpoint across one of our key categories.
Anything, Linda, on which of those new habits might stick and which will go away as we hopefully adopt to a new normal sometime soon?
Fingers crossed that it happens sooner rather than later. I think probably the biggest shift that is here to stay is actually the shift in shopping habits and the shift to online shopping. I've always been an online shopper. I actually personally hate shopping in an actual store, but we saw a huge shift from traditional retail to e-grocery during the pandemic. 41% of new e-grocery shoppers had never purchased groceries online before. And I think, early on there were some hiccups with some of the key retailers, but they quickly realized that this trend was here to stay. They hired additional people, they worked out the kinks, and I think now people have realized how easy and convenient it is to have your groceries delivered. I actually had an Instacart delivery just 2 hours ago, and so I think that's one that's here to stay. And so as we've been planning our 2021 marketing plans, we're looking to increase the amount that we're spending in the e-com channel from a search standpoint, from a display standpoint, and making sure we're really optimizing our digital shelf and meeting consumers where they are and where they're shopping for our products.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been something that had been talked about for so long in terms of e-commerce, right, and trying to accelerate growth there, and we've all been sort of forced into it as well, right? So it's been great to learn and grow during this time as we look for the silver linings in all of this.
Yep.
I'm curious. We've talked a lot about some of the marketing efforts that have changed and product adoptions that have happened. What about work style and leading your team? Your team in the U.S. is across multiple locations, as you mentioned. There's offices in Colorado as well as in New York. What are some of the learnings and changes that you've had to deal with managing the crisis from a leadership perspective at Danone?
Yeah, that's been a really big challenge for me. I just started at Danone at the beginning of the year. So I hadn't even had a chance to meet my entire team when we all went on lockdown. So I've really had to find ways to make connections and build relationships without the benefit of in-person meetings or hallway conversations. And so we've done a lot of what everybody else has done, right? We've shifted our quarterly town halls to virtual town halls. We've done, WebEx happy hours, things like that. I've also tried to do one-on-one connections. So I actually block a few hours in my calendar each week where anyone on my team can sign up for an informal coffee chat. It's just a way to get to know each other with no agenda, no formal discussion plan, just a way to get to know each other one-on-one. And then I've also been doing, 10 to 20 people roundtables. I think what's most important as a leader during this time is to listen and really hear how our people are feeling, right? We talked earlier about how we fielded a consumer study to learn how consumer attitudes were changing during this time, but it's just as important to understand how your people's attitudes are changing, right? They're under enormous stress as well. And so just reaching out and connecting on that human level, I think goes a long way as a leader. And then just finding ways to keep it fun, right? It's no fun sitting on WebEx for 10 hours a day. So anything we can do to change it up a little. We've been doing things like, getting together to do some virtual volunteering, making cards for Meals on Wheels participants as a group on WebEx. We have a Halloween happy hour coming up where we're all going to show up in costume and we're going to give out prizes for different costume categories. So just ways to keep it fun during this time.
I love it. There's, I'm wondering too, if you think about, college graduates, people that are entering the marketplace today, what a difficult time it is for them to join the workforce. Communication and staying connected is a great tip. Any other tips that you might have for someone new entering the job market today?
Yeah, I feel for everyone trying to start right now. I do think, communicating, building relationships is key. And I think just never stop learning, right? Think about how much the media and marketing landscape changed just this year alone. But I think, as marketers, it's always changing and evolving. I think back to when I started my career, social media didn't exist, right? And now I'm spending more than half my budget on it each year. And every year there's new platforms, right? TikTok was all the rage. Now there's Triller and all these other ones coming out. And so I think to be successful in this industry, you have to always be learning, always be adapting, keeping your finger on the pulse of what's happening from a consumer standpoint, from a media standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, in order to be successful.
Definitely. No, that's great advice. And since we're here today talking about women in marketing, I have to ask, what advice do you have for women today and thinking about establishing their careers and rising through the ranks?
Yeah, I have lots of advice. I think my first piece would probably apply to anyone, women or men. But I think, marketers are going to be more successful if they understand other functions within the company, whether it's sales, finance, et cetera, right? I think more and more today, marketers are tasked with growth, with understanding and owning the P&L and truly delivering growth for the company. And you're going to be better at doing that if you understand the other roles and functions. And so my advice would be to raise your hand early in your career and do a rotation, and really try to understand how the total company works. I did that early in my career, and it was a very transformative experience that I do think made me a much better marketer then and now, because I can look back and point to the interactions I had with our supply chain team, touring the plants and understanding how the products were made, going out and meeting with customers, side by side with our sales team. Really, really great experience. And then I think specifically for women, one, make sure that, you're always getting credit for your ideas and accomplishments. I think sometimes, it's stereotypical, but women tend to, sit back, and not toot their own horn. And so I think it's important to do that in a way that's, of course, authentic to who you are as a leader. And finally, negotiate everything. That would be my number one tip: is negotiate every offer, every salary. Everything in life can be negotiated.
I love that. I love that. Are there principles, Linda, that you have that guide you as a leader? And I guess what were your sources of inspiration? You obviously have a very well-developed career. Would love to know a little bit about sort of what inspired you through it and what principles you put in place beyond what you've shared so far.
Yeah, that's a great question. We talk about building brands with purpose, but I think it's just as important to be a leader with purpose. And so I think that's different for everyone. But what gets me out of bed every day is the ability to be a role model for my 10-year-old daughter. That's what keeps me up at night, and it's what gets me out of bed in the morning. And I want to be able to show her that women can be successful in business, and then we can do it while being a great mom. And I've been very lucky throughout my career, whether at PepsiCo, Diageo, and now Danone, to have mentors, managers, role models that really knew that was my purpose and supported it, men and women, and really showed me that it was possible to be a great mom and a great marketer. And so hopefully I can do the same for her.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I have a daughter who's just started in the workforce, and I feel the same way. I love seeing what she's learned from me as she's starting her own career now. And I have two sons, and I do think it's super important as well, right, to make sure that we
Mm-hmm.
are, we make sure that men have a responsibility around the success of women also, and
100%.
allowing it. So, I'm curious. There's so many amazing female leaders out there today that we can look at. Is there anyone who particularly has inspired you or who you would admire in the work that they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, my friends and family inspire me every day. I like to surround myself with inspirational people. So I could point to any number of them. I guess a woman, I've never met her, but I admire her from afar, would be Whitney Hurd, who's the founder of Bumble. And she used to work at Tinder, and she founded Bumble around this whole idea of empowering women in the dating world. And she's since expanded it into a networking platform. So there's Bumble Biz, Bumble BFF. She's really taken this and really expanded it, across the full spectrum. But she also does it with a strong purpose and really, back to living your purpose in a very tangible way. She's really committed to ensuring that the platform is free of racism and misogyny. And she's been a bit of a pioneer in the online dating space from that standpoint in, creating innovations and things that really make sure that none of that is a part of the platform. So it's been really great to watch her grow and be successful.
Yeah, so admirable. Just to look at women who, have a vision and make it come to life, and that are driving meaningful impact in our world today. It couldn't be more important. Um, would love to close out before we get to questions from the audience with a couple of light questions, Linda, that just help us to get to know you a little bit more. Netflix binging, anything top of mind right now?
Yes, I was binging lots during the pandemic. I actually just finished Normal People, which is an adaptation of Sally Rooney's best-selling novel. And I read a ton, and I never like, the show or the movie as much as the book. I think this is one of those rare examples where it lived up to the book. The acting is phenomenal. It's about a young Irish couple, and it follows their relationship. I think actually the young actor just won the Emmy for it, but highly recommend.
Oh, I haven't watched it, but I'm going to put that on my list for sure now. I'm looking for something new. How about books on your nightstand?
Yes, I read way too much. I probably read a book a week. I belong to several book clubs with my friends. We just read Where the Crawdads Sing for book club, which is another great one. And then actually Danone has a new book club as part of our inclusive diversity efforts. And so I'm currently reading How to Be an Anti-Racist as part of that. So I kind of like to balance the fiction and the nonfiction, as I choose my books throughout the year.
Yeah, I think that's a really good strategy. I've been trying to do the same. I don't find as much time to read as I would like to, but I'm trying to push myself because I should have more time with a shortened commute, but somehow I'm not finding it. But I'm going to.
Yeah, I used to read on my commute into the city, and so you're right. Now that I'm at home, I don't have as much time, but critical to fit it in.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you to complete a sentence I couldn't get through COVID without.
Red wine? I guess a better answer would probably be my daughter and TikTok challenges. She has definitely kept me entertained throughout. I don't know if my dance skills are very good, but it's been fun.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, again, we have to see some silver lining in all of it for sure. Piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
Definitely have more fun. I think, I love my career. I love my job, and I take it very seriously. I give 110%, but I think it's important to also have fun. We work on some great brands and some great categories, and we can have a lot of fun with what we do every day.
I love that. It's so important. It really is in the workplace, as well as, personally. So I'd love to jump to some of the questions from the audience. The first one is, as leaders, you are always developing, your abilities. What skills would you like your marketing team to develop this year?
Ooh, that's a great one. I think, and again, it's an overused buzzword, but I think it's super important this year is agility, right? We've had to pivot everything we've done this year. Basically, our 2020 plans went completely out the window. And so I think those marketers that are comfortable with ambiguity and comfortable making decisions without full information, right? We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with the pandemic. We don't know what's going to happen with the election. We don't know what's going to happen with the economy. Yet we still have to build marketing plans for 2021 and beyond. And so the marketers that are comfortable with ambiguity and can, be agile and flexible and pivot as needed are going to be the most successful.
Great. How do you see your audience demographic expanding to be more inclusive as the industry grows and evolves?
Yeah, it's another great question. We have such a wide variety of brands and categories that we are lucky to reach a broad segment of consumers. I think for us, if you look at our plant-based business, it's all about really showcasing the benefits of plant-based living, both from a health impact as well as the impact to the planet, and really growing the penetration of our plant-based foods with consumers. I also think we have a huge opportunity to look at a more multicultural set of consumers, right? With everything happening in the world right now, that's obviously top of mind. We've created a multicultural marketing council here at Danone to make sure that as we're doing consumer insights, as we're developing new products, and as we're developing new campaigns, that we're including the input and the voices of diverse consumers and building the products and the campaigns to meet the needs of those diverse consumers as well.
Absolutely. 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 Linda, how do you envision technology changing, if at all, to support the new generation of workers who are going to be working from home more?
Well, hopefully there's some improvements in WebEx and Zoom technology, because I know that's been a pain point for me personally. But I mean, technology is key to everything we do, right? We wouldn't have been able to transition to working at home so seamlessly without it. And so, I imagine that this will fundamentally change the way we work going forward. And I think there will be, new tools and technologies that enable us to stay connected, to work more collaboratively and interactively than we ever have before. And we use, tools and technologies every day to connect with our consumers as well. So I imagine at some point there'll be the convergence of that too.
Absolutely. And I think we've all been pretty amazed at how seamlessly we've been able to convert to remote working as well, right? So that's really powering, I think, a lot more growth and positivity around the opportunities there.
Yeah.
Speaking about consumers, what trends in consumer behavior are of particular importance to you and any marketer today? And how are they consuming media differently?
Yeah, I think the most difficult one and the most interesting one to me is the use of multi-screens, right? And again, I'll use my daughter as an example. So she, when we went first on lockdown, right, we didn't leave our house essentially for the first 6 weeks, and we had to find new ways for her to socialize. And so she would be playing Roblox with her friends on the computer while simultaneously FaceTiming them on the iPad and also doing TikTok on the iPhone. So she had 3 screens in front of her for this multi-sensory, multi-person experience all at once. And this is the next generation, right? This is what they're comfortable doing. This is how they're growing up. It's, digital natives times 1,000. And so, I think as marketers, we have to understand that behavior and figure out how we create not just content, but experiences that can break through when they're on multiple screens, experiencing multiple things, and be the one that they want to engage with, which I think is going to be a big challenge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a huge challenge. Do you have a favorite brand, Linda, under the Danone umbrella?
I do. They're all my favorites for any of my team on on the line. But I would say the one that I probably consume the most is Silk. We do have such a wide portfolio. I mentioned I think I have Silk unsweetened almond milk in my coffee and my cereal every morning. I use our Silk creamer to bake a lot. I'm an avid baker, and so I use that as a key ingredient. So that's probably the one I consume the most, although I love all of our brands.
Well said.
It's like picking a favorite child.
And I think we have one final question. What purpose-driven campaigns does Danone have planned, as much as anything can be planned right now in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, all of our brands have a strong brand purpose, and we're working on how we bring that to life. So Silk is one in the works right now around plant-based living. I mentioned Too Good, which is all about right now partnering with food rescue organizations. And when you buy Too Good, we're actually going to donate an equal amount of food to those organizations. So lots of different ways that we're working on how to bring our individual brand purposes to life.
That's excellent. Linda, I can't thank you enough for joining today for this conversation. You shared so much that we as marketers and women in marketing can learn from. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Brand Innovators, for having us today.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much, Linda. I wanted to ask a follow-up question. I'm a big Silk fan as well. I have some in my coffee cup right now. So how have you guys felt the importance of plant-based products has evolved over the years? Because I feel like that consumer trend is just becoming more and more important. And I know I'm always looking for almond milk alternatives, and so that's a reason I'm a fan of Silk. So I'm curious, kind of that growing change.
Yeah, I mean, Silk was one of the pioneers in plant-based products, and it's been really exciting to see how it's exploded over the past few years, right? With the Impossible Burger, you have now all of these fast food chains getting into plant-based. So we're looking to expand our portfolio. We have a fantastic line of So Delicious ice creams If you haven't tried those, I mean, I am a huge dairy ice cream consumer, and I can't even tell you how delicious these dairy-free, so delicious ice creams are. So I think food technology has come a long way. We have a fantastic, research and innovation team here that can make plant-based products as delicious, if not even more so than dairy, which is really exciting.
Yeah, no, I feel like if you had people line up blindfolded, you can't even tell the difference these days because the technology has evolved so much, which is so fascinating. Well, thank you both so much. So great to have you, Linda, and thank you, Nancy, for moderating the session. We hope to have you guys back on our stage again soon.
Great, thanks so much.
Thanks. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Well, everyone, we still have a few great sessions ahead.